Most people agree that a baby dyke is a woman who's recently come out. The debate is whether a baby dyke is a younger woman, a teenager, early 20s, or a woman of any age. Due to my own circumstances, I agree with the latter philosophy. So about 4 years ago, I started coming out to my closest family and friends, and 2 years ago, Facebook officially, on National Coming Out Day. So in these last couple of years, I have been interested in anything gay or queer. What was I going to say now?
Got it.
Hold on one second.
I think stickers on your car.
Oh, thank you. Going first is very scary. So the first thing I did was I got a human rights campaign bumper sticker for my car because I wanted everybody next to me driving past to know that I'm gay. When I was 39, I asked my best friend to make me a friendship bracelet in rainbow colors. I read Autostraddle every night before I go to bed to catch up on the very latest LGBTQ women stories. And two of my favorite shirts are one from the 2018 Lesbian Games, and the other one is from my badass church, the United Church of Gainesville. So this shirt is from a couple of years ago from our Open and Affirming Committee, and it says gay and straight together. And at the time, it was the only gay piece of clothing I owned, so I wore it a lot. I wore it everywhere, in fact, because I wanted people to see me and recognize that I'm gay. But it turns out, a lot of people probably thought that I was the ally. In fact, my partner and I were talking one day about how likely strangers were to identify us as lesbians on a scale from 0 to 5. And I, of course, think I'm a 5 inside. She told me that at best, I'm a 0.5. She says this has something to do with like the way I move my hands or walk or something. Does anybody understand what she's talking about? So, before I was a 5 in my mind, if you would have asked me how gay I felt, I would have told you I was a 0. I had a crush on Ryan in kindergarten, and I wanted to hold his hand. In 2nd grade, I wanted to write Zach's name on my desk in eraser, and I had a crush on Tony in 4th and 5th grade. You get the idea. And I never thought about who anybody else liked. I thought we're born this way. We like who we like. We don't have a choice in the matter. And I figured that gay kids were just like me, that we knew from an early age who we liked. So I felt this way until I didn't. I was in my mid-30s, married with a couple of kids, when I had my first crush on a female. And it took me about a year before I realized how much I liked her. So at first I came out to myself. Then I told my 3 best friends and my sister. Then I told my therapist, whom I started seeing only when I realized these feelings were very real. Next I came out to a couple of other good friends in town, but I continued to keep the secret from my husband. I thought I should tell my mom first. So about 4 years ago at Christmas, when I was home visiting, my sister and I went with my mom to Costco, and in the back seat, from the back seat, I told my mom I had something I had to tell her. I had feelings for a woman. I don't remember my exact words. I don't remember hers, but I know I cried. And I remember that she put her arm around me when we walked into the store. The next morning, I got up really early and I went into the kitchen, and she was standing at the sink. And she looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. She told me she was really sad. She was sad because she was worried for my husband and my kids. She was angry. She was angry at this woman who she thought was taking advantage of me, a married mom, though I hadn't told her anything about this woman. So we left to go to my husband's house his parents' house later that day for Christmas. A couple of days later, when he returned to Gainesville, I went back to my mom's for a few days, and on the morning that we were going to leave, she said, "Here's a letter for you, open it later." So I said goodbye to her, got in my car, drove around the block. I parked and I opened the letter. It was 5 pages long. A summary She told me that she hoped I would take everything that mattered most in my life and put it on a balance, and that my husband and my kids would outweigh this other thing. She told me she thought this was selfish. I cried through the whole letter. And then I texted my best friends, and they gave me some resounding advice. I needed to pull myself together. I have a 4-hour drive home, and my kids were in the back seat. So I followed their advice. What followed was the darkest month of my entire life. I stopped talking to my mom every day, which was my habit. I cried every moment I was alone. I cried on my way to work. I cried in my classroom when my students had gone. I cried on my way home. And I kept the secret from my husband. 2 positives came out of that month. One of my best friends told me that I needed to be more patient with my mom because I'd had time to come to terms with this, and so it wasn't fair of me to just expect her to be okay with it overnight. And another friend told me that this wasn't fair to my husband or to me, and I needed to find the time to tell him. So I told him on Friday, February 20th. I knew what was going to happen. He was going to either yell at me or tell me to leave my home, or he was going to go. And what he did instead was put his arm around me, and he told me he loved me, and he said we would figure this out. He is an amazing person. It wasn't all easy. We had 100 conversations, and in the end we decided we'd give it a year, and if nothing changed for me, then at that point we would begin our divorce proceedings. And he made me promise that I wouldn't be with any other men. That was not a hard promise for me to. Today, I'm engaged to a woman who will become my wife next April. And I met her during those most turbulent months when I couldn't figure who on earth would ever want to date me, a 38-year-old baby dyke with babies of my own. And she helped me navigate that time. She held my hand, literally, but just as my friend, because she was moving to Seattle very shortly, and that was fine. And that was 3 years ago. I feel like I come out all the time. Especially when I'm with my partner, because certainly I'm less invisible. And I kind of think that all gay couples come out whenever we hold our lover's hand. I come out to my 5th graders and their parents every single year. I no longer say, hi, I'm Laura, I'm a lesbian, but now I say, this is Lisa, my partner. And honestly, I really love this process. I'm super proud to be queer. I recognize that a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that I grew up my adult life, especially with hetero privilege. I never struggled as a gay teen. My family has been pretty remarkable. I've only lost one family member, and that's the uncle of my ex-husband. And my mom, she's not just supportive, she loves my partner. She was here a couple of weeks ago and she brought her a little gift because it reminded her of my partner, and she sees how happy I am. The one thing that she said that breaks my heart is that if she could go back and change anything, the day that I told her for the first time, she would have climbed into the back seat next to me and put her arm around me, because that's what she wished her mom would have done for her if she'd ever had something so important to tell. It's not a problem. I was never upset by that anyway, but that's how she feels. I'm very close with my ex. We had beers on the day we got divorced, and he hangs out with my partner when I'm out of town. And then there are my daughters. Our daughters, who have gained a ton of love. They have additional grandparents who love them, and aunts and uncles and cousins. They've gained love. A couple of weeks ago, we were out for dinner, and we ran into this older lesbian couple we know, and I was looking at them from a distance, and I thought, I'm going to be them one day, and there is going to be a younger couple looking at us, thinking how we are giving them hope. And I think that's just amazing. So whatever this incredibly challenging road has been to get to this point, I am so grateful.